You're going to start laying down on your back with your legs bent, bringing yourself into your narrow parallel. Now before we start to move, I just want you to notice how the back of the body is connecting to the floor. So you might have some support at the back of the head, a rolled up towel or a thin cushion. But just bring your awareness to the center of the back of the head. Moving down the body, how do the shoulder blades feel? How do the ribs feel connecting to the ground? Check in with the pelvis. Notice. And then the same with the soles of the feet. Notice how they're both being supported by the floor and dropping down into the floor. So notice what your opening outline is, your imprint. And then we're going to start to move into pelvic clock. So some of you may have done this tilting forward and back pelvic clock exercise with the pelvis on a mini ball last week. You're going to start by rocking the pelvis towards and away from the ribs. As the pelvis comes towards the ribs, that's a pelvic tilt to number 6, and as it moves away from the ribs, that's a pelvic tilt to number 12. So this clock idea that we introduced last week on the mini ball is also relevant to working on the mat. So as you tilt your pelvis towards your rib cage, you're coming to number 6. And as you tilt your pelvis away to your feet, you're coming to number 12. And just in case you skipped last week, then as you tilt towards the rib cage to number 6 there, you're thinking about the lower back dropping down into the mat. And as you rock the pelvis back away again, you're thinking about the lower back lifting away from the mat. That would be number 12. So 6 and 12 on your dial, towards and away motion. Now begin to settle the pelvis somewhere in the middle of the dial, so somewhere in between 6 and 12. See if you can ascertain as to whether the pelvis feels quite level across the front here, and you're bearing weight centrally but with ease. It might feel different to how you started, but it feels like you can be there with ease now that you've found the center spot. And then again, as we did last week, if you drop into the right side now and lift the left hip bone, you've come across the dial of the clock to 3 o'clock. And then as you tilt, bypassing the center and drop into the left side and lift the right hip, you're now at 9 o'clock. So right hip down would reflect 3, and across the dial would reflect 9. And you're going to continue to rock the pelvis side to side in this way. And back in the early sessions of the series, we did just tilt from side to side, but now you're just adding in the thought of 3 o'clock and 9 o'clock. Just as we did at the beginning of the series, again, you're going to be really aware that the knees don't sway side to side. You might feel that there's some movement through the thigh bones, but it's very much more of a lengthening and reaching away once that hip bone is lifted, as opposed to a rocking of the knees side to side. So really do notice what your interpretation is. Try to keep the movement pretty small in the pelvis as it's rocking from 3 to 9. And then just as you did with your 6 and 12, I'd like you to settle the pelvis where you feel like you're in the middle. The dial is neither tipped to 3 o'clock nor 9 o'clock, and you're bearing weight right through the center of the dial. From here, you're going to start to tilt around the dial of the clock, and it's going to be much more of a circular motion that doesn't cross the center of the pelvis at all. So we start by rocking towards number 6. From here you're going to tilt the pelvis to number 9 and rock the pelvis away to 12 and then across to 3. Continue around the edge of the dial to number 6, over to number 9, rocking the pelvis away to 12 and then across to number 3. The direction in which you're travelling, I want you to notice how it feels. How are you managing to feel like you're curving round? Notice if there are any parts of the spine that perhaps don't want to drop fully down towards the ground. Be really intuitive. And then bring the pelvis back to centre. I'm going to rotate straight away in the opposite direction, still tilting towards 6, but this time we're going to take the pelvis over to 3 before it comes to 12 and grows across the body to 9. If you feel perhaps that 6, 3, 12 and 9, that the movement is a little bit too complicated, you could go back to last week, starting with just the clock of last week, where perhaps the pace is a little slower in delivery, regardless of whether you're working on the mini ball or not. You might need a little bit more time. So once you've circled the pelvis all the way round in this direction, bring the pelvis back to its center position, where you feel like once again the front of the pelvis is tilted in neither direction, side to side or forward or back. It's also not on the curved edges between each number on the dial. Just feels like it's settling in the center. As much as possible, you then want to feel that gradually feels more and more normal for you. There's no bracing, there's no holding, just for you to be there. And with practice that will come. From here we're going to come into femur arcs. Now when we start to move the legs with the pelvis in this position, we're going to work for that stillness and quietness. So as you breathe out, you can think about the back of the head and the back of the ribs just settling into the floor, as does one foot and one knee will float. Inhale with your leg raised and exhale to put the leg back down again. Take a breath in. As you breathe out, heaviness in the head, the ribs, one foot, and you float. Inhale with your leg raised and exhale to bring the leg back down again. So you're looking at continuously developing your awareness of what moves as you lift the leg each time. So if you can stay grounded and remind yourselves of how you were initially lining up, progressively you're staying grounded and considering how you begun to line up following clock. And then you're just noticing how easy can you make this movement feel for you. Always beneficial to consider the downward motion enabling the ease of the upwards. After you've done this last one, the legs coming all the way down. Now you're going to draw your knees and feet together for this next one. We're going to come into bent knee opening, and it has the same principles, the same aim, a quietness and stillness in the pelvis and the torso. You're still settled in the middle of the clock. As you breathe out, you're going to part one knee, and as you breathe in, you're going to bring that knee back to its closed position. You're going to use the same leg, exhaling to part and inhaling to return. It's not a question of how far can I part the knee, it's a question of how still can I maintain my pelvis position without it feeling braced or forced. Can I get an indication of when there is movement and and the movement will more than likely be a side-to-side movement. So can I stay in the center of my clock? Can I be aware that as the knee moves out to the side, the pelvis doesn't rock to 3, it stays right into the center. Other legs, same idea. Exhaling, heavy through the back of the head, the ribs, 1 foot, and the knee parts. Inhale to return. Exhaling. The end of the movement will be where you sense that the knees are back to their closed position once more. Exhaling to part, easy, relaxed. Reprogramming the aim. If for you somehow you feel it's much more about, can I get my knee to the floor? Reprogram that. Can you connect the breath, exhaling, so that you generate stability naturally without it feeling forced, and you manage to refrain from rocking the pelvis to number 9 as the leg moves out to the side. After you've done this last movement, exhaling to part and inhaling to return. If you have a head cushion supporting the back of the head, you're going to move it away now. Because we're coming into bridging and you want some space for the neck, you're also going to come into a narrow parallel, so that would involve toes away from each other, heels into line. And we're going to start to bridge from here. So as you breathe out, stand down into the feet and hover the pelvis. Once the pelvis is hovered and you're starting to feel active in the legs, you can begin to very slightly tilt the pelvis to number 6, continuing to peel the hips up towards the ceiling. Inhaling at the top, but feel that you're as grounded through the blades as you are through the feet. As you exhale, nice and heavy through the back of the head. Think about the ribs widening as they start to return towards the floor. The sit bones, base of the pelvis also widens, and that will bring you back, all the way back down with the slightest of tilts towards number 6 before you land. It's very small. As you breathe out, you're going to stand down into your feet once more. Feel that activity in the back of the legs in preparation for supporting you. The smallest of tilts to number 6 to take you up there. Now you're equally bearing weight through the shoulder blades as you are through your feet. Feel that strength of position. Are your big toes down on the floor? Take a breath in. As you breathe out, heavy through the back of the head, wide through the rib cage. Sit bones start to move away from you. Notice how the upper body is quite still the lower you come. There isn't too much movement through the head and the chin. The throat is easy as best you can. We're going to add some arms in here now. So as you exhale next time and you stand down into the feet, definitely want to still be thinking about the shoulder blades staying down towards the floor. But on this inhale here now, you're going to release the arms away. So the fingers go up towards the ceiling, staying narrow through the parallel. As you breathe out and you start to spread the back ribs down towards the mat, you're going to take these arms up and back into an arm arc. So the body returns as the arms reach back. And as you breathe in to prepare for your next bridge, you bring the arms back down beside you. Exhaling, stand down into the feet and hover the pelvis. Just looking at a subtle challenge in coordination. Keep reaching those knees away, stand into the blades. Breathe in, you float the arms to the ceiling, nice and relaxed. As you breathe out, can you think about spreading the ribs back down towards the floor and your heels as you reach the arms up and back into that arm arc. You'll land the pelvis at the end of the exhale there. You'll inhale and you'll bring your arms all the way back down beside you. 2 more of these. It will mean that there is continuous movement. Breathing out to come up. Breathing in, floating the arms. How does that feel not to have the arms supporting you? Just be really aware of shoulder blades. They can support you. It's an exhale to return as it would be without the arm arc. And then as you inhale, you come all the way back down again. Last one, exhale, feet going down to hover. And you can move this at your own pace. Big toes, how are they doing? Inhale to float the arms. Still feel the blades on the floor. Reaching the arms back as you exhale to return. And then inhale to bring the arms all the way back down again. You're going to continue with arms only. So breathing in and breathing out. And as you inhale and take your arms up and back, you can use this as a breathing prep, so filling up the rib cage, really sending the breath backwards into the back of the mat as you reach the arms up and back, and then exhaling to return. 2 more, breath in and breath out. Last one. You take the fingers back to the ceiling, turn the palms to face each other. You're going to inhale and open the arms out to the side, and exhale to bring the arms back to the ceiling. Inhaling. Focus on the breath and the movement combined, knowing that the movement is simple, but made a little bit more challenging by attaching a breath pattern to each part of. After you've done this last one, and the arms are back up towards the ceiling, you'll come into shoulder drops, which is the 3rd part of the arm series. As you breathe out, fingertips reach upwards, and as you breathe in, backs of the shoulder blades spread back down onto the floor. Exhaling and inhaling. Breathe out through your mouth, and you'll breathe in through the nose. And there's not a huge range of movement you discover as you do this one. But you do want to attach the breath and know that the movement itself is mobilizing through the upper spine, and that's going to help you as we move into chest lift and other movements. So exhaling to reach up, and inhaling to come back down again. After you've done this last one, sticking with middle spine, upper spine mobility, you're going to come to lay on your side for book openings. So grab cushions, or again rolled up towels will absolutely do. Knees bent and your head is on the front of the cushion. You'll take a breath in here, and as you breathe out, open the arm to the ceiling. Definitely clock the ceiling. Continue to rotate around there. Inhale when you're open, and exhale to close. So you'll take a breath in, and as you breathe out, open the arm to the ceiling. Hips are going to stay stacked. Inhale when you're open, and exhale to bring you back to your closed position. And breath in. Breathing out. Head rolls around on the support. Inhale when you're open, and exhale to close. And last one, taking a breath in, breathing out to open. Inhale when you're open, and exhale to close. So book openings today with stacked hips. Take yourself over onto the other side. And the knees are bent. You're looking at lining up as if you were on your back. Soles of the feet in line with the back of the pelvis and the ribs and the back of the head. Inhale when you feel organised, Exhale, could the hips and the pelvis stay where they are? Inhale when you're open, and then exhale to close. Take a breath in. As you breathe out, sealing is quite important just for coordination of breath and movement. Inhale when you're open, and exhale to return. So you'll find with different variations of book openings that if you do manage to keep your pelvis and your hips still, you'll be further away from the floor with the arm. But again, try and understand that the mindset isn't to come as far as you can with the upper body. Once more, it's to keep your pelvis still. Inhale when you're open here, this is your last one, and exhale to come back. We're going to come into chest lift from here. So if you bring yourself back onto your back, you don't need any cushions or any support. Narrow parallel with your feet, just how you did when you first laid down. And you're going to interlace your fingers and take them behind your head. Always want to double check when you come to lay on your back, having laid on your side, that you are in fact straight. So what I'm going to ask you to do when you lay here is, as well as having your hands interlaced behind your head, notice how that changes the back of the head connection, the back of the ribs and shoulders connection. Could the pelvis be as it was at the end of clock? So it's neither tilted to 6 or 12, it's neither tilted to 3 or 9. It feels like it's right in the centre there. Could it stay in the centre as you breathe out, lengthen through the back of the neck, carefully nod your chin to your chest and fold yourself up? How's the clock? Inhale, lay yourself back down again. Breathing out to lengthen. Nod your chin to your chest. How's your clock? Inhale to lay yourself back down again. Exhaling, lengthening. The ribs drawing in. Inhale to lay yourself back down again. So for this one, we're going to come into a movement that will transition us into an assisted roll-up. As you breathe out, you'll float one knee. Inhale when you're up here, and you'll float the other knee. As you breathe in next, you're going to reach the arms forward and hold onto the backs of the legs. Use the hands and legs connections quite firm to help to deepen the front of the body, sending the backs of the legs forward and down, and that's going to roll yourself up to sit. Once you're sitting tall, legs bent, we're going to come into a series of assisted roll downs. So as you breathe out, start to tilt the pelvis towards your number 6. Just notice how that feels. As you're rolling back here, keep turning the dial on the side of the hips. As you know, draw your balls of your feet towards you and bring yourself onto your back. Take a breath in. As you breathe out, the backs of the legs go forwards. You'll nod your chin to your chest. Keep sending the backs of the legs away. Your gaze is low there, and that'll bring yourself all the way back up to sit. Exhaling, feet go down and forwards. Tilting. Upper body is calm. Hand to back of leg connection is firm. Last one, backs of legs go forward. Chin to chest, you're rounding through the entire spine to bring you up to sit. Once you're up to sit, we're going to come into this long stretch position. If being here is hard for hamstrings, hard spinally for you, then you could soften the legs if it's more of a hamstring and you feel suddenly easy in the spine. Or you could also sit on something. So you could do this seated on a chair, you could sit on a few books, something to lift the hips up a little bit higher. We're coming into spine stretch from here. So as you breathe out, nod your chin to your chest. Start to draw your front ribs in and back. You could think about reaching your fingers forwards, as you would do if you were on your back, reaching them up to the ceiling. And then as you inhale, you bring yourself all the way back up again. Exhaling, gaze drops, sternum softens, front ribs rolling in and back ribs spreading back. You do take your head between the arms where possible and then inhale to bring yourself up. Unless that aggravates, in which case you can do exactly the same sequence with your arms, just resting down on the mat beside you, exhaling. It's a feeling of going up and over. And then inhale to come back. And you can do that whole movement, as I said, with legs bent if you want to. Grab a band if you've got one. If you haven't, your arms will be raised out in front of you. As you exhale, back to the legs go, down into the mat and forwards. And that will start you tilting your pelvis to number 6 there. You're going to continue to tilt. Keep tilting. Trying to spread the lower back long into the mat before you bring yourself back onto your back. Take a breath in when you're back here. And as you breathe out, nodding your chin to your chest, softening through the front of the body. Notice the backs of the shoulders are reaching forward, the back ribs are reaching back. And the band is pretty taut, so it's giving me lots of assistance as it returns to bring me back up again to my seated position. Exhaling to tilt, notice how that is. As you tilt there, pay attention to how straight through the midline you appear to be rolling down. Inhale when you're on your back. And as you exhale, lots of length through the crown before you nod and soften, before you have to turn your ribs in and reach the backs of the shoulders forwards to bring yourself up to sit. I'm just going to do one more of these, exhaling. And you could have stopped at any time, as you know. Exhale to bring you back up again. Nodding your chin carefully to your chest, feeling that the spine opens behind you and reconnects into the floor behind you segment by segment before you peel off and bring yourself all the way back up again. Quick recap of your single leg stretch. Bring your right knee in, left hand on the top of the knee, right hand on the outer ankle, and then you switch. The leg that comes in has the opposite arm resting on the knee, and the other arm is down the outside of the ankle, and you switch. And you're looking to coordinate the switching of the arms and the switching of the legs simultaneously. You can pause with whichever leg you want to have bent to start to roll yourself back down again, and you'll roll down in the same way you just did with or without your band. You start to tilt the pelvis towards number 6. Think about the shoulder position. It's as if the front and back ribs drop backwards and away from the shoulders. Start to draw your feet towards you only when you need to. Keep reaching the other leg long, and eventually that'll come away from the floor. Now there's not a lot of you on the floor so far as pelvis and lower back. So be aware of that. Try and hug towards your midline as much as you can. And you exhale to switch. And as you switch, you're going to think about the hand that you grab, that shin pushes upwards to the ceiling to try and keep you in your deep curve. The lower back is definitely on the floor. Depending on hip flexors, you might want to play around with low straight leg But again, your lower back is definitely on the floor as you exhale and switch each time. I'm just going to do 2 more of these. And after we've done that, those last 2, you're going to bring your knees into your chest, lay yourself down and bring your feet separately down onto the floor. Just going to grab a little cushion again for side to side. You might find that you don't need it. And as you breathe out, sway your legs to one side. Inhale when you're over and exhale to return. Take a breath in as you breathe out, swaying over. Inhale when you're here and exhale to return. Last one. From here you're going to come into side kick. So as the legs roll towards your screen next, you can prop yourself up on that forearm. 2 straight legs. The arm that you're working on here is outwardly rotated, just so that you can feel you're in the back of your shoulder and you have 2 straight legs. Other fingers are down on the floor. So if you part the feet just to lift that top leg, you're going to inhale to swing the leg forward and exhale to swoop the leg back. Breath in and breath out. Inhaling and exhaling. And inhaling and exhaling. Straight legs, really encouraging a flexed ankle to come forward and a pointed foot to come back each time. And last one, when you swoop the leg back, we're going to do the bent leg version here. So you bend your knees in and lay yourself down. If you wanted to have some cushioning to help with the arm, you could do. Otherwise, hand on hip, knees will move away from each other. Inhale, swing your leg forward and exhale to swoop your leg back. Breath in and breath out. You can visualize your pelvis now and the clock face. You're right in the middle of the dial, so whilst your top leg is swinging forward and back, the pelvic half isn't swinging forward and back. It's quiet and still as best you can. From here, with us having done mermaid a few times, you're going to swing the leg backwards, keep it backwards, and push yourself up into a Z-sit. You can see that we've linked 3 moves there. You're then going to lift the arm and start to bend towards your front leg. Inhale when you're here and exhale to bring yourself back up again. Breathing in to lift and breathing out to bend. Inhale when you're here and exhale to come back. 2 more. Breath in and breath out. Inhale when you're here and exhale to come back. Last one. Breath in and breath out. Inhale and exhale to return. To repeat all of that on the other side. So 2 straight legs for your side kick, 2 flexed ankles. You've got the forearms slightly rotated outwards just to help you feel the back of your body, and fingertips are gently touching the floor. Feet move away from each other. Inhale to swing your leg forward and exhale to swoop your leg back. Breath in and breath out. Inhaling and exhaling. Breath in flexed ankle, pointed foot, just to get as much length down the back of the leg as the leg comes forward and the front of the leg as the leg comes back. This will be your last one. 2 straight legs the whole time if you can manage, if you can gauge that, and then resting down. Bending your knees and resting on the arm. Hands coming onto the hip, or you could have it in front of you still if you wanted to. Otherwise, the knees move away from each other and you inhale to swing the leg forwards and exhale to swing the legs back. Breath in and breath out. Breath in last one. When you swing the leg backwards here, you're going to keep it back. And as you lower the leg downwards, you just push yourself up. You'll have one leg in front of you and the other leg out to the side and behind you. Depending on mobility through the hip, you might find this uncomfortable, in which case you could straighten your legs out in front of you as we've done before. You'll inhale, and as you exhale, you bend towards the front knee. So that's the side you're going. Inhale when you're there, and exhale to bring yourself all the way back up again. Breathing in and breathing out. Breath in when you're here, and breath out to bring yourself back up again. Inhaling and exhaling. Breath in, over to the side, and breath out to come back. Last one, inhaling and exhaling. Inhaling when you're here and exhaling to come back. Coming into some prone work now. So if you're not keen on prone or it doesn't work for you, you could easily switch over to one of the seated videos now. Otherwise, head down on the floor, elbows bent. And I'm going to start with my forehead hovered. Or you could have a cushion resting underneath if you prefer. Walk your legs away from your pelvis, feel that you're open through the front of the hips. And as you inhale, create some length through the crown and the neck. Lift the gaze, widen the collarbones. And as you exhale, bring yourself back down again. Now working the upper back. Inhale, lengthen. Really simply, if you widen your collarbone, you want to feel that the shoulder blades move towards each other behind you. You're definitely using your upper spine. Inhale. If you don't feel like you're using your upper spine and you're in your lower back, then you're too high. Exhale, bring yourself back down again. And so smaller movement. And last one. Rest your head on your hands now. Single leg extensions to follow. So as you breathe in, you'll reach one leg away, hovering it away from your mat, and exhaling to rest it down again. Inhaling, your thigh bone's in parallel. It's drawn towards your midline, the middle of you. And just being aware that the leg is quite low. And you breathe in to lengthen and lift, and breathe out to rest back down again. Do 2 more of these. And then we're going to come into doubles. So the doubles, just want to make you aware of the front of the pelvis. So head is resting down here. You could imagine that the back of the head, the back of the shoulder blades and ribs, and the back of the pelvis were in line with each other. What I'd like you to see whether you can discover is, where's your pelvis? Where's your clock? Can you somehow, via tilting forward and back, via tilting side to side, could you somehow feel that you can position your pelvis in the middle of your clock? Once you've done that, can you maintain that as you inhale and reach both legs away from you, and exhale to bring the legs back down again? Breathing in to create some length, and breathing out to rest back down again. Breath in. How's the clock? Just notice if it's rocking towards or away from the ribs. If it's rocking away from the ribs, and you might be using your lower back a little too much, so take care. After you've done this last one, we're going to come into single leg kick. You're going to keep your head down, and you come back to the single leg extension. So you'll reach your leg away again, thinking about it being drawn to the center, and then you start to bend the knee. Reach the leg back to straight and rest it down. Other leg, so lengthening. Start to bend the knee with an emphasis on length through the front of the thigh. Reach the leg away and rest it down. We're going to do 4 more of these, so lengthening, just as you did, bending, extending and resting down. Lengthen, bend, extend and down. Think about being narrow, contained through the pelvis. Slow and smooth with your movement. And last one, lengthen and bend, extend and rest down. From here we're going to come into child's pose. We're going to do dart, but we're going to do it in a kneeling position. So you're rounded here. If you wanted to, you could come onto your back and bring your knees into your chest instead. And then when you've rounded throughout the entire spine and you've found that opening through the entire spine, you're going to come up into a high kneeling position. And if a high kneeling position doesn't quite suit you, then you could come up to stand tall instead, so standing upright. Your arms are straight beside you. And we're going to dart here, so you'll inhale and widen through the collarbones. The upper arms start to move back, and exhale to relax them. So inhale, you can imagine still laying on your front. You can imagine the work still being felt in the upper back, and exhale to relax down. You're ultimately lifted, kneecaps pushing down into the floor, crown of the head reaching up, and exhale to return. Breath in, you could also do this in seated position, and then exhale to relax the arms. From here you're going to come onto hands and knees. We're going to reverse roll up today, so I'm going to bring you out into a plank. You could watch it if you wanted to, then you'll walk back to your feet. You could watch that part if you wanted to before deciding as to whether reverse roll up is for you. If you're not sure, you could just bring yourself up to stand and roll down and roll up in the regular way. As you exhale, you're going to slide one leg behind you and curl your toe under. You want to feel that you could push down into the floor with the heels of the hands and slide the other leg away. And you've managed to keep some stillness through the spine. Now your reverse roll up, you're going to send your heels backwards and downwards and start to pike the hips up. Keep the hands pretty narrow down the mat as you walk back to your feet. If you need to, soften your knees, and then you'll get a little bit closer to the floor with the hands. Now, give yourself a moment to be accustomed to being upside down. You could widen your foot position if you didn't feel particularly stable. Let go of the upper body and relax, and then just imagine you have rolled down forward into this place, and as you exhale you'll lift the navel up. You could begin to straighten your legs by sending your heels downwards, and that will help unravel you all the way back up to stand. From here you're going to roll down and roll up, so you'll breathe out, nod your chin to your chest. You can think of spine stretch, anything that involves curling up and away from the floor, to take yourself all the way down. The bottom of your roll down, if you needed to, you could soften your knees. And as you exhale next time, you're going to send your heels down into the floor, lift the navel up towards the spine. Keep lifting through the front of the body, like trying to draw your clothing closer to you as you come back up again, all from the front. We're going to walk out into a plank here, exhaling chin to chest. Just as we've done, you're letting go. You're allowing the weight of the hands and the head to lead you downwards. Once you get to the bottom of your roll down, if you wanted to and you're happy to bear weight through the arms, walk yourself forward and back out into that plank position. The hips come down and the back of the head comes up to try and give you that appearance of being in one straight line. And then you can send your heels backwards and downwards, just as you did coming from hands and knees to plank. Relax the back of the head, soften the knees if you'd like to there, and as you exhale, lifting, feeling like you're taking your body away from your clothing, all through the front there. Really nice thought to bring you all the way back up again. Last one to finish, everyone. Exhale, chin to chest. You could just be rolling down and rolling up, just depending on how it felt for you today. Even on the way down, you could be thinking about moving your front body away from your clothing. Soften your knees as and when, so whenever you feel that's relative for you. It wants to move away from being about your hamstrings and being about your spine. So if your hamstrings prevent your spine from rounding more, then that's when you soften. And you're walking out into your plank. You can stand strong there. Feel that you're really trying to utilize some mobility through the toes, some strength through the hamstring and heel connection. And then send your heels backwards and downwards. Soften your knees when you get back there. Really relax and let go. Hands can be on the floor with soft knees. It's a nice sense of reassurance. And then as you exhale, heels down, navel lifts upwards to unravel. And bring yourself all the way up to stand. And there we are. Well done, and take care, everyone.